Previously on Big Brother. Good evening, I'm Seth Ott. Welcome to Previously on Big Brother Week 5. A really exciting week in the Big Brother house. Some different scenery than what we've seen in the past. Some shifts in the power. So let's get right into it. What we started on Sunday's episode, we saw the aftermath of the Thursday episode with the battle back and the blind side. What we saw there is that the 6 shooters were doing damage control with Nick and Bella after they had voted out Cliff instead of Nicole like they wanted. They were trying to convince Nick and Bella that they were doing it not to hurt them, but because they thought it was the right move, and trying to basically convince them that it was not something that they were trying to do to stab them in the back or anything like that. But Nick and Bella were not having any of it. At this point now, we see the 6 shooters and then the rest of the house is kind of a split thing here. Now, most of the rest of the house are trying to do the thing to keep them in the house, and they realize that the 6 shooters are the powerful group, so they're not really trying to ruffle any feathers at this point. We do see some changes here this week, though, that I'll go over. So we see after this backlash and after this damage control, we see Cliff wins the head of household, which is awesome. I mentioned that last week with the spoiler, but we see Cliff win. He wins like a memory competition, which is great. If Cliff's going to win competitions, it's going to be memory and these skill type things. It's not going to be an endurance comp. Anyway, Cliff wins head of household, and we start to see the 6 shooters really scramble here. We see at this point too, everyone, and part of the strategy and really not great strategy, but part of the strategy is that everyone knows that they have power. So especially they've won the majority of these competitions, these camp activity competitions. Everyone knows that Christy has the diamond power of veto. This will come into play a lot this week, so I'll kind of bring that up later. But with Cliff, we have Mickey offering to be a pawn to go up on the block, and they're really trying to position Nick and Bella to get out of the house. Cliff, though, at this point, starts to really use his power to kind of position himself, and this is, again, a theme that he does throughout the week. He brings together a small group of people, Jess and Kat and Nicole, to say, hey, we need to band against these guys because they're the power. We need to survive together. Kat doesn't necessarily agree with that. She says, I'm going to go wherever I want to go to further my game. If they're in power, then I'm going to go with them. She doesn't say that to them. She says in the diary room, which I don't think at this point, with how the power has shifted and where the power is laid the whole season, I don't think that's the best move. She definitely needs to figure out a side, and she needs to work with them because this floating thing is not going to get her very far. So we get the nominations. Cliff nominates Mickey, but also nominates Jack. So he makes the power move this week. He wants to get the power couples broken up. He wants to get the power shifted to the other side of the house. With that, we have Christy starting to think through the veto that she has, this diamond veto. Again, everyone knows, but she starts to think through, hey, who do I use this for? If Mickey does win the power veto, do I use it for him or do I keep it for myself to further my game? That is smart. It shows that Christy does have a strategy in this game. She's not a person that I've seen do a lot of strategy. Honestly, she's let her emotions get the best of her throughout the season, and that's, probably a hard thing to do, is keep those emotions in check when you're inside that house. But she has not made the best moves this season, especially letting everyone know this power. But it's good that she's thinking about it and not just rashly using it. We also see, too, some fun stuff. We have the have-nots come back, which can come into play later in the season. But we get the have-nots back, which basically, for those who don't know, the have-nots are, you have to take cold showers, you have to eat slop, which is just basically a mess of, looks like oats and stuff, and you have to sleep. Now they made the camp comeback room into the have-not room. It's the same room, they just have to sleep there. So it can become psychological at this point, and Cliff, it seemed like he had like a random assortment. I know Mickey nominated himself. He put Kat and a couple other people in there. He should have put the power people in there, but at the same time too, he doesn't want to make people too mad. So that does make a little bit of sense. Again, we're starting to see some of the powers come out, and the power, especially that 6 shooters, the power kind of, people are realizing that they have all the power. So Jack tells the 6 shooters about his power, which is the veto power, where he can replace the nominees. Again, I've talked about that in the previous episodes. That should be a power he uses later on in the game, but as we see here, he's on the block, he's worried, he's nervous, and he uses it to replace they redraw all of the veto nominees, and lo and behold, because he has so many people in the game, it's useless. It basically just gets the same people in. It's not the same people, but the same in terms of like his alliance versus not his alliance. It was 3-3. That is a dumb play. I know you're on the block. I know you're worried, but you already have half and half. You have a 50-50 shot of someone using it for you or someone within your group to keep your group safe. You use that later on when, if you're up for veto, up playing veto, and you need more people playing for you. And let's say he has 6 people left in it, or 5 people left in his group, and there's a total of 8 people in the house. So there's 6 people playing, and the 2 people who aren't in his group go up and are in the veto. He can redraw at that point and then get everyone he's playing with in his group up in the veto to play veto. That would be the way smarter thing to do, is when there's less people, you have a better chance of it benefiting you. I know he was worried. I know he was freaking out, but this was a dumb move by Jack. I don't think Jack's a very good player. I think he's trying to bully people and intimidate people, and that is not going to get him very far. It's going to piss people off, and it's going to get him out of the house. I don't think he will get super far in this game. I think he's just not a very strategic player. Honestly, I think he's pretty dumb. So I don't think he's going to do super great in the Big Brother house. But anyway, they do get lucky. Mickey wins the power veto. It's they had to undress and keep buttons held, and it sped up time and stuff. Whatever. Kind of a dumb thing, but Mickey wins. Here's where some real gameplay starts, and this is where I liked what Christy did here this week. She goes up to Cliff and says, hey, I have this diamond power veto. I can use it, and we'll make sure that, that your household, the head of household reign basically doesn't matter. Or you could let me not use it, just keep it in my back pocket. Mickey takes himself off, and you put Isabella up, where you're safe for 2 weeks. This power stays in my pocket. I am in debt to you, and it's going to put you in a better position. Good move by Christy here, because it keeps her power in her pocket. It keeps her safe, essentially safe, for as long as she can, because this diamond power veto, with having the group she has, can really be used in a lot of situations, because the chances of them winning the power veto are high. She can then turn that diamond power veto into safety for the week. So this is a big move by her. I appreciate what, as dumb as her move was to tell everyone about it, she made a much better move by telling Cliff, hey, let's make a deal. So that was good. Very good by Christy. So Mickey uses the veto. This is where Cliff has to make a decision, because does he turn his back and basically get rid of 2 weeks of safety and be public enemy number 1, but he gets a huge target out of the house and turns that 6 shooters into 5? Or does he strike a deal and is safe for 2 weeks, and himself, he doesn't have the numbers on his side of the house, he only has a couple people he can work with, but does he strike that deal and let Christy keep her veto and put up Isabella? Well, he decides to do that. I personally, if prior to what I'll talk about in a second, I would have gone with getting the target out. You always take a shot when you can, at least in my mind. But it's pretty early in the game too, so I see where Cliff is coming from, because it does pay off in a bit. Again, I'll talk about that. Actually, I'll talk about that now. He does this, and this shows the 6 shooters, even though I hate that group, but they're in power, it shows them that they can trust Cliff. And so Cliff makes that deal and is now starting to have a little bit of power within this group. They say we're going to work with him. He kind of strikes a deal with Jack and Mickey, and he's a competitor too. He's shown that he can win competitions. So they're starting to see him as a real game player, as opposed to this nice old guy who's funny and everyone likes. They're starting to see him as a real game player and a real asset. This is good for Cliff. He's going to be safe for a while, not just 2 weeks. He's going to be safe for probably further than that, until they start picking off some of these other guys. I know that Nick is a big target for 6 shooters. I know that Sam now is a big target for 6 shooters. Nicole is probably a big target for 6 shooters. There's at least 3 to 4 to 5 weeks now that Cliff is safe, and Cliff can really turn this into if there's a schism in this 6 shooters, he's the one in there. He's in the middle of this 6 people. He can start to chip away at this group, and he can throw things in it, because he's a very, very smart guy. Cliffomania is running wild in the house right now. He's very smart, and if there is a little bit of a doubt between any of these groups, if Jack and Mickey have maybe a fight, he can go in there and turn that fight. He can turn that molehill into a giant chasm. There we go. Shazam is Shazam. a giant chasm between those two and really break this group up, turn that 6 into 3, and he can pick a side where the power is. Cliff is playing a good game. While I didn't like that move initially, I think that move is going to turn out well for him. So I like that. We get another interesting little bit here for some potential partnership or potential final two here, and that's Holly and Kat. Holly and Kat knew each other outside of the house just briefly. They weren't friends, but they were both in like a modeling type thing. They were competing in that pageant shows, that type of thing too. And so they kind of know each other, and now they're getting to know each other in the house. They say they really like each other. They show some scenes where they're hanging out and getting along, and they make a final two. They tell each other they really trust each other. That's really interesting. They do have a very similar sense of humors and thoughts and things like that. Their diary rooms seemed genuine, that they want to work with each other. And so I think this is something too that's interesting, because Holly has been with the 6-shooters, but she's been very, very quiet. My roommate who's been watching the show with me has also said, I really don't know who this girl is. And that's good. That is a good thing at this point in the game. I don't know who you are. When someone says, I don't know who you are, but you're part of a big alliance, that is great, because you have 0 blood on your hands. You have but a strong, she's at least going to go till final 6. She's not someone who's expendable at this point. I would definitely see Christy going before her, because she is a little bit louder, a little bit more emotional, a little bit more in the crosshairs. I could see Annalise going before, because she's associated with Jack. She's also made some waves too. Holly has made 0 waves. I think she's played a little bit of competitions. I think Holly has a shot, as long as she keeps her nose clean and is able to create these relationships. She has a final 2 outside of the 6-shooters now, but she's very close to Mickey. So I like this. I like this for Holly and for Kat. Kat has now created herself a little bit of a safety net. She was probably one of those people who would have gone in a couple weeks here, but now she has someone inside of the 6-shooters to protect her. I like this a lot. And so this will be cool. Bella then, now being on the block, campaigns to stay in the house. She's making really, really good points, but she really kind of screwed herself in the few weeks where she was telling people things and not staying true to her word, and just became very deceitful and very open-mouthed with all of her stuff. And that's what dug her hole here. She was making super good points, and people were getting really close to keeping her. They really were. But unfortunately, this is just the end of the road for her, and I thought she had a good plea. So unfortunately she went. I really wanted Jack to go. I think this would have been a really big HOH for Cliff, because he would have had to make the final vote, but I think the 6-shooters may have respected that vote, saying, if he would have went up there and said, he is the best competitor in this house, I have to get him out in order for all of us to move forward. He's the guy that's got to go. Isabella is someone that can go later. He could have made a plea for it. He could have gone out there and made sense of it and maybe kept himself safe, because he had, again, 2 weeks of safety. I know he may have broken it by taking Jack out, but the only thing that she said he had to do was put up Isabella. But anyway, that's a moot point. Isabella is gone. She's gone from the game. And we kind of are left in a weird spot, because we have those 5-ish people. We have Nick, Sam, Nicole, Jess, and Kat, who are all kind of left on the one side of the house, and we have the 6-shooters and Cliff now in a group. So it's a very interesting pairing. It's a very interesting time for the Big Brother house. So I think Cliff's in a good spot. Cliff's probably in the best spot in the house right now, so it'll be fun to see what he does. They also mentioned there's this America's Field Trip thing. I don't know what that's going to be. They said there's some power associated with it. I'll be interested to see what it does. You can vote, maybe not a power, but put someone in jeopardy. Maybe someone gets to leave the house. I don't know. But that is something that could be interesting as well, and could really shake some things up for a little bit too. Hopefully hurt the 6-shooters, because they need to be broken up. And then we are left with the endurance competition. I don't know. I've been staying away from Twitter. I didn't have it spoiled for me, so I don't know who wins, but endurance competitions are always interesting. We did see Nicole and Jessica both fall before the show ended, which that rarely happens. So the chances of 6-shooters winning is very, very high, because the only people I have left is Sam. And this is like a hanging vine competition, which are those hanging competitions are never good for these bigger guys. So Sam's gonna have a tough time, I believe. We have some of the other bigger guys left on the other side of the house too, on the 6-shooter side, but we have some really smaller framed people in 6-shooters who can probably hang up there for a while. So my guess, I also know Tommy, smaller guy, but he's very athletic, very acrobatic from being a dancer. I could see him maybe winning this, but it'll probably be a 6 shooters week. But as long as Cliff and the Cliffomaniacs stay safe, it'll be another good week. So that is it. We're getting some fun stuff in the Big Brother house. So stay tuned. We're gonna start seeing some really good gameplay continue. So it'll be a lot of fun. But until then, from inside the SoCo studios, I'm Seth Ott. Good night. Previously on Big Brother.